Hello and welcome back to Video Field Notes, an internal series here at Sequence where we essentially dog food our own application by cutting real-world projects on it and using that to determine our roadmap of what we're going to be working on next. I'm your host, Parker, the founding designer here at Sequence, although today I am not necessarily the founding designer here at Sequence. I am an editorial assistant for Sickbird Productions, because this is a very special Video Field Notes. This is our first ever customer case study. These Video Field Notes have been really, really useful for, trying to cut real work within Sequence. However, that is our own projects, and after a couple of years, you get bored of only doing your own projects. We want to see other people doing things. We want to help other people make their stuff. So we've partnered up with Sickbird Productions, which is an awesome female-led production company with worldwide offices, focusing on a lot of branded, unscripted content, and also having a real renaissance of video podcasts. They have a lot of podcasts under their belt and more that are on the way, and they're interested in if Sequence can set up a collaborative workflow for cutting these. Also, you seeing this animated grain effect here on these thumbnails? This is tight. I want to steal this effect. So they actually sent us an episode of this podcast here, At Large with Scott Norton. And essentially, I have kind of done our normal Video Field Notes process of just kind of taking notes of what's really, really pissing me off while I'm editing here, what's working really well, what do we know we want to work on, but we should probably prioritize now that we've done this, and then, just bugs. Also took a lot of notes on kind of the raw experience so that we could try to communicate maybe different recommendations for Sickbird about how they might accomplish things until we're able to create some of these features. And then also, for good measure, have a bunch of kind of recordings of just the process of editing this and talking through what I'm doing. So we got a lot of things to cover. Yeah, I think the best thing to do is going to be to break this experience up into two primary sections, because I think one section is going really well, and the other one is, to be honest, very painful. The painful one is the project setup. Actually, you know what? That's not even a lie. It's not the project setup. We've done a lot of work on the project setup. It's the project uploading. So with cloud-based editing, you have to have your media in the cloud at some point. And we do live in a world where people are expected to have their media in the cloud at some point anyways. You're putting it in Dropbox or Google Drive or Frame.io. You're going to send it to someone anyways. Uploading things to Sequence takes a lot of time if you already are going to be doing uploads elsewhere. I'm trying to figure out how to improve direct uploads within Sequence, but also, since we know that Sickbird Productions stores all of their media within Google Drive already, we used this opportunity to implement some basic cloud uploading. So from the project overview in the workspace, you can click Import Media and connect to a Google Drive account where you'll be able to import files. So this is good that we got this, right? Why am I saying that this is a bad thing? It's a bad thing because currently Google is actually limiting our upload speeds. And so when you hook into Google Drive there, it's possible it might take longer than direct uploading. And direct uploading was already kind of a painful point. So there's work to do here. We're going to try to get some contacts inside Google and see if we can uncap these speeds and have faster cloud-to-cloud transfers. We're going to include more providers that might have faster file speeds. And we also want to look at ways to just improve direct uploading within Sequence. Farther on into the future, we want it to be that as soon as you finish recording, your media is available within Sequence. And so we're going to look at different types of camera to cloud workflows. But I guess I just want to say all of this right now as sort of a fair warning that the most painful experience of this for me trying to edit this was getting the media into Sequence, because these are 2 hour-and-a-half long 4K video files, about 25 gigs each. But once they were there, things went really, really well. So we've done a lot of work here in the library to improve working in it. You can multi-select clips with Shift now. The speeds are a lot faster, things transferring. And we also have, these kind of new ways that you can take a group of clips here and just add them to the timeline. And so setting up the project has been faster than ever before. It probably only took me about 5 minutes to organize the project once everything was available. But that just means bake in some time for the assets to become available. Have a PA uploading these the second that you're done shooting. So that would be the first part of the experience, is just kind of like setting up the project. Now, once it was set up, things are going really, really great. So you can see, this is a 4K timeline with, it had 2 clips that were an hour and a half long, composited over each other, playing back simultaneously. So the editing experience has gotten a lot better. And if we open up time travel here, you can actually kind of see me constructing this timeline, where essentially what we're doing here is I'm going to bring in the first video track that I want to be kind of like the main video track. And then I'm going to bring in this other one on top of it. There we go. And then trim it down. And essentially, these are now trimmed based on the sync mark that Scott gave me in the recordings. And as soon as they're synced, basically what I started doing was kind of watching through the video. Oh, that's interesting, the way that it deletes. Basically watching through the video, and each time that I wanted to kind of like cut something out, or each time I wanted to change camera angles, I would use Command B to apply a blade across all of the clips. And that gives you this kind of little checkerboard looking thing where you essentially have defined like, all right, these are my 2 video sources synced up over time. And I'm going to either cut out content or change camera angles at each of these cut points. And then from there, you can kind of like take out the top levels that you don't want, basically leaving all of these gaps of what you do want. So you may notice that this is not the most elegant way to do multicam editing. You're essentially having to make kind of like 3 decisions to like cut and delete and then choose an angle, rather than a typical multicam editing workflow where you're sort of just like, choose the angle and then cut things out as a secondary thing. And so this kind of is where we started talking as a team about like, all right, we have this kind of like hacky version of multicam editing, but it's very brittle. These pieces can be moved individually. It requires a lot of manual work. And while we can kind of like teach it, I think it's shown that we need to prioritize having a solution for multicam editing. I'm being very careful with my words here because we do not want to prioritize necessarily full-on multicam editing yet, because we are trying to do some significant changes to our editing engine next year, which we know would allow a much better version of multicam editing. But what we want to do is essentially allow editors in the timeline to kind of like sync up 2 clips and encapsulate them within a single clip. And then you can sort of like cut up that single clip and choose which angle you want from there. So this is an idea we've had for a long time called clip stacks, which is essentially like a container that can contain different clips. And after cutting this, I think that we want to try to like see if we can, over the next couple of weeks or months, try to figure out a way that we can make clip stacks work with multicam editing and make something like this a lot more seamless to do. At the same time, we've also been working on AI Copilot features where we're able to analyze all of the clips and provide transcriptions for each of them. So I think the obvious next step for us is to actually utilize those transcriptions to try to do some form of text-based editing and make it so you don't have to actually watch through all of this. We've got some ideas there. We've got some ideas. Yeah, okay, so good things. Upload from Google, multi-select and add to timeline, Command B to blade across clips. Session start times were good. I had like 2 crashes during this that were still very aggravating, but the issue that we have had with like session start times just being miserable or not happening at all was fixed for sure in this one. That was better. So yeah, those are good things. Bad things, upload flows. Playhead interactions are rough at this point, but that might just be because everything else has gotten so much better with like blading and selecting and moving things in the library. But when you're like watching an hour-long video clip, and you're kind of like zoomed out, and then you want to zoom into a specific point, and your playhead just like flies off the screen, and you have to scroll over to get it. Like this kills whatever thought you've had. And I've noticed that it's kind of like these things all combine with each other. So it's like the playhead not centering on zoom, not being able to snap to the playhead, the way that the scrolling only... Okay, well, what I was going to say was the timeline scrolling off to the right side, but... So, fun fact, that bug that you just saw me hit there in the recording, as soon as I finished recording that and was walking over to the office to edit this, Adam messaged me that he has a fix for it because he was watching the logs. So that thing you saw is no longer a problem anymore, and I dare you to find a better development cycle than that. Thanks, Adam.
Yep, for sure.
This was really fun to be able to see that, like, technically the thing that we want to make is possible to make within Sequence, but it's the same story as all of our videos that we try to cut in it and all of the video field notes that we make. Like, it's exciting that we can do it, and then the second we do it, we think of like a dozen little ways that it could be so much better. So thank you so much to Sickbird for providing this to us, and we hope to continue engaging with you to try to make some of this happen on your actual projects, and also to like get some improvements into the app ASAP. Thanks for watching, and until then, see you in the timeline.